Welcome back to another episode of Worship Tech Booth Makeover here at South Fellowship Church, featuring Adam Baranek and our Worship Tech Booth. So we have a couple improvements we've made over the past, I'd say, month and a half or so. We haven't made one of these videos in a while. Most of these improvements, actually all of them, have to do with just audio solutions. So Adam, go ahead, walk us through each one, start with the problem and then the solution.
Yeah, so first problem, mixing broadcast audio and wanting to listen to an individual instrument. So as you're doing your mix and you want to listen to like just the kick drum or just a vocal, if you were to solo it and you were only sending it to a left-right mix, you would interrupt the broadcast. So everyone at home would hear what you want to solo. So I wanted to be able to do that. So I came up with a solution, which is sending audio. We're sending audio back and forth between our soundboard and our Ableton broadcast station. So what's happening is over an AES 50 network, we're able to send 48 channels, but we're just sending our main left-right mix and then a Q mix on outputs 3 and 4. So in Ableton, we have our main mix, which is our master output. And then we have our Q out, which is outputs 3 and 4. And so those are going to our soundboard, and our soundboard is basically acting as an audio interface, allowing us to have physical analog outputs for the audio. And then it's coming into this little switcher box, which has XLR outputs or XLR inputs and outputs on the back. So we've got 3 inputs. We can choose from X, Y, and Z. So I have it currently set up where X is just an RCA cable, so I can plug this into a laptop and be watching on Resi our feed coming in, so I can actually hear what it sounds like after it hits the internet. And then on Y, we have our broadcast mix, so that's what is going to Resi, that's what's going to the ATEM switcher. And then Z, Q, that is pulling in whatever I solo. So if I hit the headphone button on Ableton, I'm able to I was just listening to Only the Crowds and dialing that in a little bit. So what you want to do for this is, if you want to go this route on your master output, you have this button that says Q or solo. When it's solo, it solos it to the master mix, which you don't want in a broadcast environment. If you have it to Q, you can only do that if you have a separate output. So that's what we did here. We have a separate output going to our board and then coming back into the switcher box, and then I'm listening to it with just an in-ear monitor pack, which I just velcroed on the top. So not the most elegant solution, but it has made a world of difference this morning when I got to mix broadcast audio for the church and able to solo something. It was really cool. So that's an option. I'm sure we can link these things in the description so you can try that out for yourself.
Yeah, we're gonna clean all this up eventually. Adam and I were just talking because we're like thinking about our more permanent long-term solution to our broadcast booth back here. And I'm a big fan of building things this way because sometimes we encounter problems and come up with solutions that we wouldn't have actually thought of, a month or 2 or 3 months ago when we actually first built out this table. So it's kind of cool to know, hey, we want this type of capability. To be able to have, your broadcast mix engineer be able to switch what's coming to their headphone feed on the fly between the Q, the broadcast mix, and then even anything else from an auxiliary source here. We just didn't really know we wanted that until a couple of weeks ago. And now, as we're looking into the fall, we're going to be able to really tidy up this whole booth. We'll probably build something more permanent. But I always love to come up with the solutions first in the actual design and engineering of what we all want to accomplish, and then the nice packaging and organization of cables and all that stuff can come once we've actually finalized the solutions. It's always going to be a pain if you have a permanent table set up back here with a bunch of cable runs, and then eventually it's like, oh, but we want to implement this other thing. Then you have to tear it all apart and do it over again. So that's the latest with our broadcast mix setup. And actually, another update here, we ditched the fader port. We really have been big fans of the Touchable app that we have here. This, combined with the Stream Deck, provides a really simple tactile experience for broadcast mixing. And that was more of Adam's idea, I think, really, because you just weren't a huge fan of the scribble strips on the fader port.
And you're able to have 2 layers here. So if you have
Yeah.
all of your drums there, even if you close that up, you can easily get to everything that you need to on one page. And then being able to put mutes on here is really handy.
Yeah.
We haven't even fully implemented the Stream Deck. There's more buttons we can put on there.
Yep. That's the latest with our broadcast mix setup. Check out Broadcast Mix Mastery, link down below for a full course on how to set this up yourself. All right, on to our next problem and solution.
So one problem we had was we're writing to a disk here, and we had a couple dropouts where audio would stop recording if we did longer files. So we wanted a backup solution for all of our recording. So we put another Ableton computer at front of house that's not doing any mixing, that is just capturing. So we have an extra multi-track backup. And so we can walk over here. We've done most of our networked audio over AES-50 because our Dante card hasn't showed up yet. So this is actually just a USB cable. So with the Wing, you have AES-50A, AES-50B, and AES-50C. So we have stage boxes on A and B, and then on C we have our broadcast mix back and forth, but then a fourth option for digital audio is just coming out of the USB on the back. So we're running 48 channels in and out to this laptop, which was recently revived. This is actually a 2012. It completely died.
This was like this was my 2012 MacBook Pro. I've had it since 2012, which is almost 10 years. 9-year-old laptop, and I've since had other laptops. And this laptop, it's always kind of, I don't know, had random purposes, but this is its last, I think it's probably in its final chapter of life here, as we found out a couple days ago when it just died on us. But it's a good job for it, because it's a very old laptop, but all it has to do is multi-track record what's coming into our console. Because it not only does it solve like another multi-track backup problem, I think more importantly, it's a good virtual sound check tool for when we're trying to dial stuff in or train people in here.
Yeah, if we wanted to route audio from our broadcast mix back to the board, we could, but we're doing so much with that template and routing audio different ways, and we have all the processing. We have to turn off all the plugins, so being able to just have raw audio back and forth is awesome, especially with the Wing. I have it set up so there's one button that changes it from the main input, so input A, all the stage boxes during a live service, inputs coming into the board. When I hit this button, we go to the alternate inputs, and so that pulls in all the inputs from the laptop. So yeah, with one push of a button, we can hit play on our multi-track, and we're able to have audio come through the board. So super easy, like immediately if you have a rehearsal during the week, you could record the whole rehearsal and then go back and show the musicians things. Or even a Sunday morning if you have a rehearsal time and then a short break if you want to dial something in. This is an awesome tool.
The Wing does have the built-in SD card recorder, but what we found, because we were using that kind of as our backup multi-track recording, but I'm just not a big fan of, it's all grayed out because we don't have an SD card in there right now, but trying to navigate a timeline of audio with one of these user interfaces here. Not a huge fan. It's kind of clunky. It's just so much nicer to be able to see our full service recordings right here in Ableton. We can obviously zoom in, expand things. We can put locators for different songs, different parts of the service. So we're just going to keep archiving services here. We got to get some sort of hard drive just so we can store externally from the computer's drive. But, as we train more front of house volunteers, it's just going to be so easy to be able to pull a multi-track up here and play through songs and get things dialed in.
Yeah, training is probably one of the best reasons to invest in a setup like this because, especially if you're a worship leader that you're in charge of sound and then you're on stage every Sunday, when are you going to have time to train volunteers on sound? So if you have a virtual sound check option, you can do that during the week anytime. You could even do it in headphones and train people that way. So super helpful tool to be able to multi-track record. If you're using Ableton, most other DAWs do this as well. You can even have it set up so you just open the software and it automatically pulls in your preset of all of your routing, having all the record enable buttons going. So I even had it set up with a Stream Deck before where you just hit one button and it does the sequence of things and it opens up a session and records it and you can save it after. So it doesn't take a lot of time on Sunday to make this happen.
All right, that was problem in solution number 2. Now, number 3.
Number 3, we used to have a drum brain that only allowed stereo outputs. Now we have a much better drum brain that allows us for full control of kick, snare, toms, ride, hi-hat, crashes. So we have way more analog inputs on stage.
Let's go show them.
Yeah. So here's our old drum brain, left and right outputs only. Here's our new drum brain, lots of physical outputs.
And a cool LCD screen.
And physical faders. So we've only had this implemented for one day so far, and it's way better. So we have all of these physical outputs coming out, and then we have another stage box that's a digital stage box. So this is a Behringer SD8, and because it has combo jacks on the front for the XLR inputs, we're able to just take this TRS whip directly out of the Alesis and then right into our SD8. So again, we implemented something. We haven't cleaned it up yet, but we will get there.
Yep. Yeah, and a thing about like this setup, we're like this was our first week with the Alesis Strike. Yeah, Alesis Strike Brain, which it can work with pretty much any MIDI drum triggers. So these are the ATV drum triggers. There's some quirks we're still working on. We honestly just haven't had enough time to like really dial some things in. But we'll do a more thorough video for you guys. So I don't even really want to show you too much of what we've done with this so far until we actually feel just more pleased with the results. And I don't think it's an issue at all with the brain so far. It's just like you got to spend time dialing in, seeing all this, so many different sounds in it. We want to dial in some drum tones that we like, but we can tell already going from having just the master left, right, out from the ATV brain to like now having separate outputs for all of the drum instruments into our mixing console. Huge game changer in how we're able to process drums for the mix. And then someday we'll just have an acoustic set in here.
Yeah, so the thing that's the big change here, other than the Alesis Strike, is the actual unit on stage that allows us to have all these inputs. And so this is a digital snake. It's one Ethernet cable, which comes from the side of the stage here, which is connected to the front. But the fact that you can have 8 inputs as well as 8 outputs, and then there are additional P16 RJ45 jacks on the front too. So we could plug our P16s right into this thing. So we actually have 2 of these because you can put 2 next to each other or 2 in a chain. So we have AES B is now our drum inputs as well as one that's on stage. So
this was another big problem we had.
This was an issue. We had these microphones were XLRs home run to the stage box behind the stage over there. So it was at least a 50-foot, or if not 100-foot XLR. And so we were getting some issues with noise with an XLR that long and probably running next to power. But now our XLR runs from here to right here.
Yeah, these are like 15-foot XLR runs. So here's our other SD8, Behringer SD8 stage box, as he said, 8 inputs, 8 outputs, and we're using the AES50B network because that was available. So we have our AES50A network for our 2 S16 stage boxes, which are side stage over there, kind of behind those lights there. So we've got 32 inputs, 16 outputs back there, which are tied to a lot of these like floor boxes you see, like there's one right there. But then we just decided it would be really convenient to have this guy set up right here. In an ideal world, maybe we would just have another floor box somewhere on this front platform here, but this front platform was newer to the church, and we just haven't got around to installing floor boxes. But these SD8s, I'm really impressed because, number one, they're super affordable. Number two, the preamps they sound great. It says powered by Midas, so you get some high quality preamps in there. And they're pretty low profile as well. Like
They can be racked as well, so maybe eventually we'll put this into a rack with this guy. Another issue and solution is this is our pastor's receiver for the transmitter that he uses for his headset. And so now this is, no more than 15, 20 feet from him ever as he's on this platform, where, with these little antennas. Whereas before, it was at front of house and there was way more people and cell phones between the transmitter and the pack. So
we have some major RF and just wireless. This is actually a digital unit, but we've got some major wireless issues in this room. Lots of interference with some of our mic systems. So that's going to be another future upgrade video, hopefully before the end of the year. But this works in the meantime.
Yeah, and especially because this has combo jacks on the front, you could plug a guitar with your 1/4 inch right into it. If you're playing an acoustic and you don't want a tuner, I don't know exactly why you do that. If your tuner broke or something, maybe you could do that. But it's just nice to have that. And then our P16 is, again, a 5-6 foot cable plugged right into the front of it with our RJ45 for the P16. So,
yeah, we just patched. Because these P16s, with the wing, you just send, I forget which AES50 numbers they were. I think it's like the last 16 on the AES50 network. So we have the same patching coming on AES50B as we did for AES50A. So some of these P16s are on the A network, some are on the B network, but works really well. And I feel like I can already tell. I mean, I could tell the difference week one, just how much cleaner, especially since this is for my vocal mic, how much cleaner my voice sounded, not having that long cable run and just going directly to a good preamp here. It just really cleaned up our mix. So really important to get good source tone, and one of the ways to have better source tone is to not have to run cables so dang far to get to a preamp. At least in the manner that it was being run. Because these mic cables, like Adam said, they would run along the front of the stage over here, and then there's other power that was conflicting with. It was just causing lots of issues. So I think that's it for this episode. We definitely covered a lot. Those were our three problems: the broadcast mix monitoring issue, the drum brain, the ability to do a virtual sound check. Hopefully you guys found these tips helpful. You can implement one or some of these at your church. Check out the link below for a list of all the gear that we mentioned in this video, as well as links to all of our courses where you can learn how to implement all of these systems at your church. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.